I hate my job. You know, there was a time that I actually used to like this. I was excited and I was learning new things and I liked everyone I worked with. But lately, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. My manager doesn't like me, the work isn't that interesting, and when I look around, everyone seems to like what they do, and there are such great opportunities out there. So, should I just go in and quit?
Do you wake up every morning and not feel like getting out of bed and going to work? Are a large part of your dinner conversations becoming about ranting about your workday? Do you daydream in the shower about working at another job which gives you the excitement and the passion and the respect and the space that you deserve? Are you watching a close friend or family member who's just quit and changed jobs and who's glowing with happiness and can't stop talking about how great the new job is and the people are? Or maybe they're just talking about how they're building a business that's going to change the world. Is all of this making you want to just go in and quit? If you're feeling this way, let me let you in on a secret. Shh. Everybody has, at some point. You're not alone in this. All of us go through the ups and downs at work and feel like quitting. One Microsoft survey pinned that number at roughly 40%, which means close to half of the people in your department want to quit this year. That's 1 in 2 people roughly. Close your eyes and look around your office or your last virtual Zoom meeting for a minute in your head. Think of the colleagues you meet every day, your seemingly content friends at work. 1 in every 2 people is probably thinking of quitting right now. This is understandable. Work-life balance has taken a hit during the pandemic. People feel overworked. The time at home and the fragility of life we saw around us make us all rethink how we want to spend our time and how now, with the increasing cost of living and inflation, more than ever, we feel underpaid. I'm sure you've all heard about this already with the great resignation and the quiet quitting trends. And these are the real deal. But here's something you may not have heard. People are also regretting quitting. One jobless survey estimates this at 1 in 5 people. 1 in 5 people regret quitting in the last year. And they also went on to say that almost half are not happy with their new jobs. A Fox News survey put the proportion that regretted even higher at a whopping 72%. But let's rise above the numbers. The message you should be taking away is that quitting is not something to be taken lightly. It can be the ultimate liberator from the cycle of unhappiness and the best thing that you ever did to move your career on. But it can also be a poor choice that you might regret later and might set you back years. So if you feel like quitting, how do you decide? That's what I want to talk to you about today. While there can be many ways to look at this, I have a secret trick, an exercise that can be super powerful to help you make the right choice. It helps you evaluate the situation in a more balanced and a more thorough manner. This is not necessarily comprehensive or exhaustive, given how personal these decisions tend to be, but it's a great way of thinking, and that's helped me and it's helped countless other people who've asked me for help on this. What's more, if this approach helps you and it turns out you do want to move on to the next thing in your career, you can use my video on how to make your next career move. That's linked in the description below. But for now, back to the secret method. And before I tell you what it is, hey guys, my name is Akshay Goenka, and the team on this channel has been privileged to make some of the most rewarding career choices, from working at the world's most prestigious companies to attending top business schools and even founding fast-growing startups. But each choice and crossroads was a hard one to cross, and we hope that this video helps you get past yours in the best possible way. Let's do a simple exercise together. And if you don't mind, go on and get a piece of paper and a pen if you can, or just open up a blank note on your smartphone or your laptop. And together, let's think about the past, the present, and the future. But let's start with the present. Start by writing down how you're feeling at work nowadays. Don't think, just write. Chances are you might end up with something like this. You might feel stressed and anxious. Maybe you didn't feel like working or find it a task to make it into work every day. You might not get along with a boss or a teammate or a superior who's making it hard to enjoy your work. Or you've been working longer hours, especially maybe since the pandemic. You might be feeling underappreciated. you might have realized that what you do is not your passion. Or maybe there are some structural changes at work, a recent acquisition or a strategic change in direction that's completely changed what you do to something you never wanted to. Okay, take a deep breath. It's definitely been hard. And one thing is clear, you're feeling negative, and quitting and trying to do something else seems like the right approach. But before we make an irreversible decision, it's important for us to figure out if this is incidental or is it structural. That means, has it been like this all along? And is it something that can be changed for the better? So, just for a minute, try and forget about the present and close your eyes. Try to unbias your mind from everything you're feeling right now and think about the past. What did it used to feel like? Write down how you felt in the first few months of this job. Just write down whatever comes to mind. Now, on the one hand, this could have been negative as well. It could have always been like this. Maybe you never really got along with the people at this company at all. Maybe the culture's been bad, and that pervades whatever you've tried to do. And the work's always been draining and stressful. It could also be structurally unsuitable to you. Maybe this role didn't end up being what they communicated to you in the hiring process and not what you really signed up for. Or it could also be that this was just a temporary stopgap kind of role that you took to keep moving but never fundamentally wanted. If you find your sheet of paper looking like this one, all covered in red, then maybe you should consider looking at what else is out there. And to help you do that, I have another video to make your next career move linked down below in the description. But on the other hand, this could be positive. Your left column could be all green. You might have actually liked your job, worked very well with your earlier team or your superiors or bosses. Maybe you were learning new skills and challenging yourself. You might have had a good work-life balance and finished work on time on most days. And maybe this only changed when one of your teammates left and you got stuck with a lot more work than you planned for. It's possible an earlier department or division or team you worked with was great, and that only once you moved on to another did things start to go bad. Regardless of whatever examples you wrote down, I think you get the message. It's possible that things have been bad right now, but they weren't always like this. And in that situation, the question to ask yourself is there a way back? What would it take to go back to how things were? Let me give you a few examples based on the notes we took earlier, but do look at your own to make it specific for yourselves. For example, if you are stressed or anxious right now, can you maybe think about taking a few days or maybe weeks off to de-stress and reset? Maybe ask for a sabbatical or a leave of absence at work. If your problem is that you don't get along with your manager or boss, well, what can you do to either change the relationship with the existing manager or find a way to work with a different one? If you feel underappreciated, what can you do to create more visibility for your work or work with people who are known to be good and kind and appreciative? If you're working longer hours, how can you rebalance and have an honest conversation with your manager to figure out a solution like adjusting your workload or maybe adding more members to your team to distribute the work? If you aren't learning, how can you change the nature of the work you're doing? Maybe ask for a new project or maybe take the time out to volunteer to do something different with a different set of colleagues. Now, I know what you're thinking. These things are easy to say, but kind of difficult to do. And that's true. But to truly give this job a chance, and especially if you know you've had a positive experience in the past and want to try and go back to feeling that way, it's going to take a bit of courage to have a few tough conversations and say no, even if it feels uncomfortable. And by the way, I have a whole other video on having tough conversations and saying no, which I'm going to leave a link to down below in the description if you need the help. But for now, let's go into detail on one example on how to make it real. For example, if your relationship with your manager is a major reason for how you're feeling, it means that either you need to change your relationship from something that takes away energy and detracts from your work life to something that's positive and you enjoy and you learn from. Or you need to change your manager. It's that simple. There's no third logical option. And while I know that the second option sounds easier and better, before you write off your relationship with your current boss, see if one of these two things can help. First, have you talked to other colleagues who've worked with your boss or manager to understand if they're like this with everyone? Or is there something specific about your relationship? Take the leap of faith and confide in them about your situation and see what suggestions or advice they might have for you. It's possible they faced a similar situation and found a way to solve it. Many times, we are scared to be vulnerable with others, scared to share and scared to ask for advice. But once we do it, it can not only solve a seemingly unsolvable problem, but it also makes us feel closer and more connected to our professional community and fosters an environment of trust and support. So give it a shot. Second, if this doesn't work, have you tried to have an honest conversation with your manager about how you're feeling? Whilst this is hard to do and might be scary and uncomfortable for many of you, it's important to build up the courage and do it right. Many times we build up so much context in our relationships, especially with a superior or a senior colleague, that many things that are actually assumptions or interpretations that we made on our own that have no basis, they start to feel like facts because we've thought about it so many times. For example, if someone didn't reply to an email you sent with completed work, we might assume they didn't like it or they don't think it's important enough to reply to, when actually they simply might have missed it or have been completely overloaded that day. Or let's take a different example. Your manager or a senior colleague might feel grumpy and irritable over the last few interactions. Maybe they're also being harsh in your discussions with them. Maybe they're being unreasonable in the amount of work they've recently assigned or the expectations that they've had from you. And these feelings can build up over several interactions and define how you feel about work in general and even want to make you quit. But before we do that, it's so important to reach out and take the courage to have a tough conversation and find out what's really driving this. And who knows, maybe their behavior has a deeper reason that you can help them with. Maybe they're going through a rough divorce or a medical condition that you had no idea about. Maybe they're dealing with grief about a loved one. Maybe they, just like you, made interpretations about something you said or did unwittingly. Only way to find out is to talk. It's possible the conversation helps reset your relationship and your working model in a way that works so well for both of you. And if not, at least you tried and now you know that this isn't an option. If all this doesn't work, you can also try to change bosses. While this process is of course different for each company, one easy way is to start by looking up internal job postings for other teams or talk to your friends and work colleagues and mentors to understand how you could switch roles or teams. Sometimes this needs patience. It might take a few weeks or even months, but making a concerted attempt at this could pay off in the midterm and help you get back to being motivated and passionate like you felt at work earlier. And of course, there are some structural things that are less easy to fix. For example, if the company got acquired and is now asking you to do something completely different, which is not in line with your values or your career direction, then moving on may indeed be the best option. Similarly, if you realize that this job is not your passion at all or in line with your life goals, then whilst you can tolerate it for the time required, it's probably not something you can easily fix, and you likely have to start thinking and planning about your next move. To summarize, the purpose of this exercise is very simply to ensure that before you let your feelings in the present drive you to walk in one day and just quit, or start applying to other jobs, or maybe even take whatever's available out there in haste, it's important that you stop and think about the past and understand if how you are feeling is recent and temporary and can be fixed, or deeply structural and long-term, and it's best that you move on. This will help ensure that you're making the best decision for yourself and for your career, and not something that you might regret in the future as much as possible. Now, if you decided to stay and give it another try despite it being so hard, I applaud your courage and your efforts, and I'm going to be rooting for you from the sidelines, from the other side of the screen. And either it will work and you'll go back to how things were, or it won't and you'll have clarity that you now have to move on move forward and look for something else. If you decided to move, then this is a crucial moment in your life. Changing jobs is one of the most profoundly important moments in your career. Time and time again, I see people being too reactive or tactical about this decision. And I have an absolutely amazing way to think about this that I've tested with tons of people and I've seen incredible results. Click on the link in the description below to see my video on how to decide what to do next. See you there. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you found this helpful. Do leave a comment below to share your thoughts on this method, how it worked for you, and what other topics would be helpful to talk about. Thank you.